I'm going to show you the biggest mistakes founders make when hiring remote team members. And I say that with confidence because I've made those same mistakes myself. And as the founder who's hired over 50 internal team members and helped place over 1,500 remote professionals across 700 companies, I've seen this pattern repeat over and over. What's wild is that the mistakes seem obvious, but they're not. And by the time you realize it, it's already costing you momentum, money, and energy that you can never get back. If you're serious about building something impactful that can change lives, you need a team that doesn't just move tasks, but moves your mission forward. And in this video, I'm not just breaking down what to avoid, I'll show you how to stay steps ahead and build a remote team that actually scales your vision. Let's dive in. Most founders think hiring is about saving time. They hire based on tasks, not outcome. So they end up managing chaos instead of delegating. And you can't scale with warm bodies. You need owned outcomes, right? So these founders and their managers, they're skipping onboarding. They're like, here's your login, figure it out. And the founders end up blaming the hire. But in reality, it is lack of system because everything circulates around having a proper system. When you first get this hiring on board, you want to make sure that there's a proper onboarding in place for them to know what is the first day, the first week, the first month look like, what are the expectations, what is the day-to-day, what is my quote-unquote homework, what am I getting tracked on, how am I getting paid. There needs to be a full scope of things in that introduction day, and most founders don't have this. They don't have that system in place. Another thing founders do is that they don't hire for alignment, they hire for urgency. And this creates a lot of judgment and creates a lot of emotional hirings rather than an actual right role at the right time, right place. So what happens is a lot of founders need an appointment setter, and they probably needed this months ago. But now instead of going through the right process and interviewing a few really good candidates, maybe some not the best candidates, but at least getting into that interviewing process, right? And you know, when I say interviewing, I mean the entire process, meaning these candidates have filled an application, they've submitted a video, they've submitted a resume, they've done a personality test and a skill test. And normally they get interviewed by someone on the team beforehand. But let's say that you don't have that many people, you're the first person, but they've done all this work prior, which qualifies them or disqualifies them, and you don't interview them. So they get on the interviews, but they only interview one or two people, and they don't love these people, right? And you don't have to fall in love. And when I say love, is that if this is not a hell yes, it is a hell no. You want a hell yeah hiring. You don't want to, I feel okay about him, right? Imagine getting married with someone and you're like, yeah, she's okay, you know, she's cool. It's like, man, you're marrying this girl you're gonna spend the rest of your life with and she's cool. That's crazy. You don't want that. You don't want that for your personal life. You definitely don't want that in your business life, right? So you don't want to hire based on an urgency. You want to hire based on alignment, and you always want to hire ahead of your curve. What I mean by that is ABH, always be hiring, right? People always talk about ABC, always be closing. I love ABH, always be hiring. You should be interviewing people weeks and sometimes months before you actually end up hiring the person. And of course, crazy things happen in the business. People come and go. Someone quits abruptly. Something happens in their family. They leave. I totally understand that. When that happens, yes, you want to start hiring in an urgent matter, but you don't want to hire this person fast. You want to hire them in a faster pace potentially, but not just hire them fast, meaning you don't just interview one or two people. You still go through the process of interviewing 3 to 5 candidates that have gone through the process, that have been pre-vetted, ideally got interviewed by someone else. And then you schedule interviews with them, and then you learn if they're the right fit and they're exactly what you're looking for. If you want to see what an onboarding of a 7-figure company looks like, comment the word onboarding in this video, and I'll personally send you both our onboardings for the company and for the role. So I want you to think about this. What if hiring remotely actually gave you more clarity instead of problems? You always want to start with a clear outcome, not a task list, right? What does success look like in 30, 60, and 90 days? The most successful people predict the future of their company based on the people and the data they have. So why not become this? Why not become a person that's successful that can predict the future for your company? And of course, guys, not everything's going to be perfect 100% of the time. You guys already know this. However, there are certain things that we can predict. We can predict people's habits. if they are consistently late, they never hit KPIs, they're all over the place, they're probably going to continue having these problems unless they are urgently getting better and you can see them improving every single week. But if you've had them for many weeks and their same patterns repeat, they're probably not the right fit. And number two, it's the data, right? And I mean this in the best way possible. If you don't have the data right now, you either need to create this data yourself, or the person you're hiring is going to create the data for you, which means that you're going to create a standard. I'm going to tell you guys a story. A few years ago, we had trouble finding a really good recruiter. And the first recruiter we brought on was very mediocre. But because I didn't have a standard and I couldn't show him exactly what I expect, it was like a dream. And then I had a recruiter finally that was doing a little bit better. And I was like, okay, this guy's a little bit better. He's finding me better candidates. And then I remember this vividly. The third recruiter I hired, shout out to Juan Castro. He's no longer working with us, but he was the first recruiter that gave me true hope of what the position can actually look like. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And today, big shout out to Mohammed. He's our top recruiter and he gets between 20 to 30 hires per month with his candidates because he was able to elevate the standard that we have here and he was able to really master the skill set of what it's like to be a recruiter. And I created the standard through him because I was not a recruiter myself and I was doing all this other stuff in the company, creating content and sales and appointment setting and whatever the heck it is. I wasn't really doing as much recruiting, and we were doing recruiting. Obviously, we were already hiring hundreds of people a year. We didn't have a standard. So I needed to create a standard with this person. And I don't recommend that. If I can go back, I would have done the recruiting myself for at least 1 to 2 weeks, maybe even up to a month. I would have created my own KPIs. And now when I hire this person, I have a standard to create. So if you don't have the standard and the data, you're either going to need to do it yourself or hire someone and build it with them. And you better hope and pray they're good, because if they're mediocre, you're going to get mediocre results and you have nothing to base off whether they should do better or not, because they are the best ones you have right now and you don't have any other data to prove it otherwise. So as we wrap up this video, I want to talk about the biggest mistake I made, because I'm giving us some value here, but I want to make sure that I hit on the point of why you guys clicked here. The biggest mistake I made as a CEO, this was last year, is that I overhired. I overestimated how much work and how much growth we're going to have, and I underestimated how many people I actually need to have it. And I built a company at one point based on people, not based on systems. I scaled with people way too quickly. And the hardest part was that I cut really good people in 1 month this year, right? So in February, I cut I think it was 12 or 13 people because we were literally overhiring. And a lot of them, they're here and they love working for us, of course. However, it was literally hurting the company and our margins took a massive hit. And at the end of the day, you don't want to have a company that is not profitable unless you're running a SaaS company and you're raising capital elsewhere. But if you're running a service-based company or agency, real estate company, you want to be profitable 100%. And one of the number one ways to avoid getting overhired is asking yourself, is this person in my company doing multiple roles, or is he just doing one thing and it's very okay, right? And what I mean by that is your people that you're hiring in the beginning are so crucial and so critical for your company, because they are the foundation, and they're not only just the foundation of your company, but they're the ones you're going to build your culture through, and they are basically part owners of your company without getting equity. Maybe one day, if you get big enough, they might become equity owners, and you want to think like that, because if you truly want to build a 7-8 figure, maybe even 9 figure company, you want to think that, hey, all these guys that own multiple 7-8 figure companies, none of them own 100% of them. Very, 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 very rarely. It's usually there's business partners and then there's minority owners, right? And a lot of them are workers. Like we actually have a girl on our team that has a percentage of our company, of our platform, which is pretty cool because she's basically an owner of the company. So why is that important? Is because in the beginning, as a startup, every single person is going to do multiple jobs, right? The CEO is going to do multiple jobs, the COO is going to do multiple jobs, and then everybody else on your team, right? My appointment setter doesn't just call and set appointments. She also texts, and she also sets emails, and she also does triage calls, and she also follows up, and she calls our list, and she sends emails, and she replies to everybody. But yes, her main thing is setting appointments, sure, but that's not all she does every single day. In terms of there's other things that I want her to do throughout the day. They're going to be productive. They're going to move the needle forward. Sometimes, a few hours a week, she actually spends hours training with a mentorship program that we actually paid for. I'd love for that, because I'd love for her to do that, because guess what? She gets to actually learn and utilize a lot of this experience and use this with us, because at the end of the day, what you learn is going to directly affect your day-to-day, especially your role, especially a sales role, like an appointment setter role. So that's one thing. Another thing is you want to make sure that you're hiring people that have great leadership capabilities in the beginning, but also are very versatile in their skill sets. So many people hire people who are only good at one thing, and it's okay to a certain degree. Yes, like you want them to be really good at one thing, but as a startup, you need people to be diverse in terms of their skill sets, right? I don't want a closer that, if he only knows how to close, that's good, but like I also want him to know how to follow up. That's partially closing, but that's a skill set. I also want him to know how to set his own appointments. I also want a closer that's organized, that's detailed, right? Like some closers are only good at closing, and then you don't have all these other aspects, and then slowly but surely you start fading away. So this is very, very, very important. If you only remember one thing, remember this, okay? Hire slow, onboard fast. Speed in the wrong phases creates expensive mistakes. And here's how to set the right pace. Treat your first hire like your first investor. They either multiply your vision or dilute it. So an example of this is actually our very first client who became one of my close friends today, Mr. Eric Fosnach. Shout out to Eric, who's hired over 30 team members from us at this point, which is amazing. And today even messaged me about one of his team members who moved to Florida and is making American dollars as a remote Latina, which is pretty cool because she was a girl from either Colombia or Mexico. And because she was able to level up and provide so much value to his company, she was able to get paid more and obviously now make the move to Florida, which is unbelievably awesome. But Eric is very, very big on this, where if he doesn't feel good about you within the first 1 or 2 weeks because you're showing up with a different energy, you're late, you're just not there, he's out on you immediately. He's not going to sit there and babysit you. However, Eric's one of the kindest human beings I've ever met in my life, so he's going to give you a chance and he's going to make it very clear. And this is what I would love for every single business owners to do, is to be able to replicate what Eric has done, because he's been able to build a multi-7-figure business across multiple different industries with 100% remote work. And a lot of his workers are based here in Colombia and Latin America. He has a few people even in the US. So that means that he has different cultures, different genders, different ages. And he's been able to do this now for over 5 years. And he's just getting started. And this dude is like 25, 26 years old. So this is important for you because ultimately you want to be able to replicate what people have done and do it your way, right? Do what Eric, do what Remote Latinos and many other these companies have done. Even companies like Go Hilo, for instance, they're 100% remote. How are they able to do this? And it's because they hire fast, they onboard faster, and they literally keep an eye on this person. If they are not the right fit, you can tell, right? I learned this from Alex Hermosi, and he said this to me. He said, you can tell when someone is an A player. Like, it is really easy to tell you. It's really easy to say. It's really easy to see. They're gonna put that in your face. I am a fucking A player, right? It's pretty obvious to see, right? What's hard to spot is the B and C players. Those are hard, and that's where you have to be careful, because B and C, they're pretty close to each other, right? I would say A and B, they're obviously close as well. It's one grade above, but it's pretty easy to tell an A player, right? They're showing up, they're staying up a little later than usual. They're asking you very specific questions. They're showing up on the weekends. They are telling you what they want to achieve in this company, and they see the vision, and they're so sold on the vision that they treat this in the beginning like it's their company. And many people don't do this. That's why many people are not A players, and that's totally okay, right? The B and C players where you guys want to be very mindful of, because you don't want C players. At the worst case scenario, you want B players that have potential to be A players. So as we wrap this up, guys, are you ready to stop guessing and start hiring remote team members who actually perform and make a difference from day one? We've helped over 700 founders build rockstar remote teams that don't just save time, they drive growth, real growth. If you want a proven system and a top-tier vetted talent that supports you from day one, we've got you covered. Book a call with Remote Latinos. So head over to remotelatinos.com and let us help you find exactly what you're looking for by understanding what your current hiring needs and wants are. And instead of trying to do this whole process yourself, we have a white glove service that will help you throughout the entire way and ultimately help you find exactly what you're looking for. Because right now, your competitors are already doing it. We're probably already working with some of your competitors, and they're going to beat you if you don't have the right team, because you can only go as far as your team goes. And remember, Rome wasn't built in one day. Thank you so much for watching my video. Guys, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.